Thank you for joining our Black History Month webinar. The Reach Network are very excited to have Michelle Raymond with us. Michelle has a very impressive and extensive CV, spanning 20 years of experience in HR and training. And we hope that you find today's session thought-provoking and useful. It's not just about underrepresented groups. Allyship is really important, and it's okay to get things wrong. That's how we develop and grow. So without further ado, over to you, Michelle.
Thank you so much for that. Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can all hear me and you can see me and you can also see the slides. I'm really excited to be able to share a little bit of wisdom with you over my 20 plus years dealing with HR and working with within the diversity and inclusion space. So we're going to be talking about 3 lessons on how to increase your empowerment and authenticity amongst ethnic minority staff that benefits them, but also benefits the allies and the wider organisation. So I've got a couple of housekeeping rules before we get started. So first and foremost, if everyone can remain on mute throughout, that's so that we can protect your privacy and also not to disturb any of the presentation today. There is going to be time for questions and answers, and I really want you to engage in that. So if you have any questions, you can start putting them in the chat and we will go back to them and make sure that your questions get answered. And as Closa had said before, that the recording will be made available. I'll also make my slides available for you all. And we're going to be doing one poll, and the team will share the poll. Feel free to engage in the poll and we can talk about the results on that. But above all, guys, I want you to engage. And I'm such an inclusive person in general. So if you don't feel like engaging in the chat, you may want to come off mute towards the end when we open up for the Q&A. Or there might be something that I say today that might trigger something for you, and you may not know how to deal with that. Please reach out to the team. You've got the Reach team. They are there available for you, because I know that parts of my presentation may be triggering. Parts of it you may want to challenge, and I'm open for it. We are all open for it, and that's the great thing about this. So you also have the functionalities at the bottom where you can use the emoticons. I'm sure there's hand raising, there's smiles. Utilize in whatever method that you want to do that. And also, if you're one of those people that want to take pictures of the screen, you're more than willing to do that if you want to share it on social media, as long as we're protecting the privacy of the chat, which is really very important. But if you see some of the slides that are interesting, feel free to share it on social media, tag in the Reach team, tag me in, let us share and let the world know what WBD are doing for people like you and for other colleagues. So let's just make sure that the chat functionality is working. If you agree with me, put a yes in the chat. I have another screen here. So if you see me look over here, I'm just checking the chat functionality to make sure it's working. So let's see a yes in the chat. So I know, yes, love it, Joe. Brilliant, Caroline, Glenda, love it. We're engaged. It's working. This is good. Brilliant. So a little bit more information about me. I am the Leading with Clarity Associate. So some of you may know that there's a lady by the name of Yvette Ankra. She runs Clarity, and I'm one of her associates. I also have my own business called The People's Partner, which is a coaching and consultancy where we work with leaders to make sure that their pipeline is diverse, that they're not just hiring and promoting and progressing people that look like them, people that speak like them, making sure that the pool is diverse. I also run the Emerging Leadership Program for UCL, and I do a number of talks for different organizations all over the world. So I share that with you so you know that you are in the right room and that you know that it's somebody who knows what they're talking about. All right, so let's get straight into it. So let's go straight to the poll. So a poll should be coming up on your screen, and it should say, do you believe that you can speak freely without the risk of adverse consequences? And when we look at this question, adverse consequences could be something very small, like the reaction when you share something, when you speak up, or it could be something a bit more extreme, that it's being used against you. You're finding that the windows of promotion are a bit smaller for you. So we've got a very wide spectrum. So do share that. It should be up there now. Brilliant. Keep voting. Keep voting. There's a lot of us in the room. Loving this. Yeah. Okay, we've got 81 responses. Brilliant. Good, good, good. I know there's a few more of you. And think about just your own experiences, or it may not be your experience. It might be an experience of somebody else that you know. Okay, so let's see. We've got yes. Oh, we've got more responses coming in. Okay, we'll wait. We'll wait till we get to critical mass, and then we can share the responses. 97, have we stopped at 97? Okay, so once again, the question is, do you believe that you can speak freely without the risk of adverse consequences? So 31% said yes, which is good, 31%. But a resounding 43% said no. And then 24% said that they're unsure. So these figures are quite indicative. They're quite telling. We've got some more people responding, 98% as well. So what does that tell you? What does that tell you? That there needs to be more work needs to be done. Already WBD are doing great work in this space, but we need to be doing more to make sure that you are feeling comfortable. So these are thinking questions that I've given you. So you don't need to answer them now, but I want you to think about these questions, and I want you to go back to your team, go to the Reach team to really discuss and really unpick this. What would stop you, or what is stopping you from speaking up freely? I'm going to share a couple of case studies with you later. I'm going to share some of my own experiences with you later, but I want you to have a think. What is stopping you from speaking up about how you really feel? Is it a fear of judgment? Is it a fear of what people will say? Is it a fear of misunderstanding? And what would you like WBD to do about it? So they're already doing great work, but is there more that they can be doing? Is there things that you would like to see? Because the whole point of this presentation is to have and to get your voices heard, because your voice matters. But I know there are underrepresented groups, there are ethnic minority groups within WBD that either you feel like your voice is heard, or some people might feel like, if I speak, it's going to come to nothing. It's just going to be water off a duck's back, as they say, or it's not going to make any fundamental changes. Or there might be a third group that feel, I'm talking too much. I'm tired. I'm tired of explaining. I'm tired. But your voice still matters. So we need to make sure that there are different avenues that are available to you, that when you are tired, and we're going to talk about that emotional tax, that when you are tired, and I'm fed up of talking about this, we've spoken about it so many times, the whole world is talking about it, WBD are talking about it, but I don't see any substantial movements. We want to make sure that there's an avenue that you can still share. So I want to share with you 3 C's: comfort, confidence, and contribution. And I'm going to break down each of those, and I want you to share with me and engage in the chat. Where do you resonate with this? If you're underrepresented staff member, if you're an ally, you might you might be able to resonate with some of the things that I share here with you. So if you have a notepad and pen, this is your time to take that out. Obviously, you'll get access to the recording as well. But anything that resonates with you, write it down, journal your thoughts, because we can have a rich and open discussion about that towards the end. So let's look at C, comfort. When we are talking about comfort, we're talking about psychological safety. Now, many of you have heard this. Who has heard of psychological safety? And do you know what that means? Put in the chat. Yes, I've heard of it. Let me know. Let me know. Okay. Keep sharing. Okay. So we've got a mixed response, which is good. Psychological safety, in its layman terms, is creating space for people to show up as they truly are. Now, you may think, well, I've been working at WBD for 4 or 5 years. I feel like I can speak up, which is great. But there may be some of you that feel like I can't bring when they say my whole self to work, because I don't think they'll get me. They won't understand me. And I remember delivering a talk about bringing your whole authentic self to work. And I'm thinking, how I am at home is not how I am at work. How I am when I go to church is not the same how I am at home. So we all have different facets. But what we want to do, and what we're trying to encourage here at WBD, is bring the bits that you want to bring. And we want to make sure that you feel safe to share, that you feel safe to ask the questions. You feel safe if you make a mistake. And we want to make sure that your mistakes are a bump in the road, and that they don't stick with you for life during your tenure at WBD. We want to make sure that you're safe. So already, WBD have done so much work around this, and this is taken from your diversity and inclusion report. That diversity, however, is ornamental without true inclusivity. We have to make sure that different people, and when we're talking about different people, we could be talking about neurodiverse, Black, brown colleagues. It could be people who operate differently, think differently. We want to make sure that different people are in the room where decisions are made. And not only make sure that they feel safe in sharing, that their opinions will be listened to, that their points of view will be taken on board, what is on their minds, but are actively encourage them to contribute. So they want you to feel safe, and they want to actively encourage you to contribute. So my question to you to even think about now, do you feel psychologically safe? Do you feel like if there was a discussion on the table and you had a different opinion, do you feel brave enough to share that? Do you feel brave enough to? And there's always that dichotomy that I have got something to say, but am I saying it right? Will it land well? Will they listen to me? This is what we're talking about, being psychological safe. This is what we want from you. We want to make sure that if you belong to an underrepresented group, that you feel safe to talk. A CIPD race and inclusion report said that they found that 40% of ethnic minorities want to talk about race. You may be in that 40%, but they found that these conversations were difficult, and they're emotionally charged because there's a history. There is a history that I know you're carrying. So even when you say one thing, it can be taken out of proportion. It could be disproportionately misunderstood. So we want to make sure that it's safe for you to share. Even if the opinion doesn't agree with others, we want to have diverse thinking, diverse thoughts. So please contribute, however small, however insignificant you think it is. It might play such an important part for WBD. And we want you to contribute. But I totally understand that birds of a feather flock together? Who can resonate with that? Even if I didn't even have to explain that to you, let me know in the chat. Can you resonate with that? That like-minded people tend to gravitate to like-minded people. There is this thing called affinity bias, and it's real. Even in the hiring process, in the recruitment process. I've been in HR for so long, and when we did recruitment, I remember sitting at a table and somebody had said that they went to the same university as the CEO, and I saw the CEO's eyes light up because there was an affinity there. And I know that people who are like-minded, who believe the same thing, who speak the same way, who eat the same types of food or listen to the same types of music, you gravitate to each other. Who can relate to that? I'm seeing yes in the chat. Because there's a safety, isn't there? There's a safety in knowing that you're not going to be judged. If I said to somebody that I like reggae music, and I know not everybody likes reggae music. So if I'm going to share that and bring my whole self to work, I'm going to be picking up on the cues. I'm going to share that with you later. So we need to find out, how can we still be birds of a feather, but we don't need to always believe the same thing. We don't need to always act the same way. How can we do that? That's real inclusivity. So let's have a look at some of the barriers that definitely impacts that true inclusivity and for you to have that voice. The emotional tax. That's the mental stress that comes with speaking out. So although WBD want you to speak out, we also understand, and they also understand, that it can be emotionally taxing to keep speaking out and to be that one person always saying something. And far too many rather just walk away and think, you know what, I don't want to be a part of this. I've been in it too long. I've been in the game too long. And I know that if I speak up, I'm almost going to be the savior for every Black person in the community or in the workplace. For every ethnic minority, I'm now going to be the voice. And I don't want that. Or we might fall into that stereotype. So it can be emotional taxing. So we understand that. So that's why we're saying we want you to have a voice, but you choose the voice that needs to be heard. And there's another barrier, the lack of appreciation of the understanding of intersectionality, because sometimes you get clumped into a group, but you all have different experiences. You all have different ways of being, different ways of doing. Please engage in the chat and let me know if you feel that even though you may be Black and somebody else is Black, but you have different experiences. If you're from other different ethnic minorities, you may be the same in certain respects, but you have different experiences. Let me know in the chat. Do you agree with that, or you say, no, I'm happy to be grouped together? Let me know in the chat. I can see. Okay, so someone is sharing that they're from a part of Asia and they're so diverse. Listen, I've done some training. I did some training with BT India, and my eyes were opened to the diverseness, the different idiosyncrasies, the different challenges that they all face. So you can't be clumped together. Keep on sharing. We all are individuals with different experiences and different backgrounds. Exactly. And we need to, and we have to bear that in mind. Keep sharing, keep sharing. Brilliant. I love that. Everyone is different in their own way. We all have different experiences. We all have different life experiences. So we have to bear that in mind. Brilliant. Awesome. So how can we encourage a more psychological safe workplace? So here are 3 things, and please make a note of this. And I've done it in a way that is things that you as an underrepresented group can do, but also things that your allies can do, because I believe We both have to work at it. So the first one is safety cues. Now, this is for your allies. Safety cues is when we increase psychological safety through how our behavior, our facial recognitions, our body language, our tone of voice. How many of you have been in a situation you have shared a little bit about you, a bit of your home life, a bit of your private life, and because it's not the dominant culture, it's not the main culture, when you shared it, you've had a response like, "Oh, I wouldn't do that. I couldn't do that. I couldn't eat that." How many of you have experienced that? So I'm going to share something. I'm going to be very vulnerable. I remember having a conversation with somebody, and I said, "Oh, last night my mother cooked cow foot, and I had it, and it tasted delicious." When I shared that, the response I got was, "That's disgusting, Michelle. Oh, I couldn't do that, never." So how do you think that made me feel? On one hand, you were saying, "I'm creating a safe space. We want to know more about you." And I've shared you something that is related to what I've eaten. And that was the response. We have to make sure we are creating a space that is safe. And that comes through our safety cues. We're going to hear things that we're not used to. We're going to hear things that we've never heard before. But I'm going to tell you, people are watching how you respond. They're going to be looking at your eyes, your facial expressions. So we need to be aware of our body language. Can you resonate? I'm loving this. I'm seeing in the chat. Yeah, absolutely. Swedish pig trotters in jelly. Exactly. And we should come from a perspective of being inquisitive and want to know more. Really? That's new. I didn't know that. I didn't even know you could eat things like that. Tell me more. Let's come from a position of the tell me more rather than, "Oh, I don't like that." Okay, so second way that you can increase psychological safety at WBD is to support employees to understand and learn from each other. Their different ways of being, their different ways of living. Be inquisitive, curious, want to find out more rather than coming from a perspective of judgment. Because like a lot of you have said in the chat, we are all different. We might come from the same areas. We might have been brought up in the same areas, but there are unique cultural differences that WBD need to embrace, need to be curious about. Another way is to move away from using the term cultural fit and move towards cultural add. So you're adding value. You may be different way of thinking, different way of doing, but I'm loving, I want to hear more. I want to know more. And reward people for being different, including their personalities and their backgrounds and their ideas. We want to create a rich pot of diversity, of difference, because that's going to take WBD to a whole new level. And it has to be authentic. It has to be real. It has to be true. It cannot be a tick box exercise. It cannot be a tick box exercise. Good. Cultural add. We love that. Cultural add. Guys, we're going to go on to the next C. Are you loving what you're hearing so far? Let me know in the chat. Am I doing the right thing? Are we going the right direction? Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat. Let's see. Yes. 100%. I love that. Good. We are all going in the right direction. That's what we want. Okay. Second thing for you to consider: confidence. Showing up authentically. What does that mean, Michelle? What does that really mean? I've heard it bounded around in so many different companies. Bring your whole self to work. Be yourself. Be authentic. But these words mean nothing if people, and this still goes back to feeling safe. Do you really want to see the real me? Would you like the real me? Will the real me stop me from progressing within WBD? If I challenge your thought processes, if I challenge your systems, will I be penalized? Will it have an adverse effect? So how can we make sure that you can bring your ideas to the table and it be heard? So there was a research, Center for Women Policy Studies found that 21% of women of color specifically surveyed did not feel that they were free to bring their whole selves to work. The same study found more than a third of women of color, ranging from 28% to 44%, believe that they must play down their race and ethnicity. We call that code switching. How many of you, be honest, please be honest in the chat. How many of you have felt that you've had to code switch to stay in the room, to have a voice or a seat at the table, to play the game, to play down your race, to be accepted? Let's have a look. They are very upsetting. They are. We have to change it. And we're in such a pivotal moment and time in history. We can change this. We can change this. Yeah, so some of you are saying, yes, you've had to play it down. I mean, I know I've done so much work, but I feel that sometimes I have to reduce my blackness to get in the rooms. You see me with this blonde hair? There was a time where I just felt like I couldn't, I wear my blonde hair as a choice. I want it to be free to choose. That's what we want to do. But I remember I had a board meeting and I had my hair out. It was an afro. And I remember the board chair said to me, "Oh, Michelle, are you not coming to this board meeting?" So I said, "Yeah, I'm coming." And he looked straight to my afro. And all I felt was, okay, he thought I wasn't coming because I had an afro. So how do you think that made me feel? That I had to reduce my blackness and I felt like I had to wear my hair back to be accepted. I had to code switch. We need to get to a place where we can be us. So if you want to wear your afro, wear your afro. If you want to wear your sari, wear your sari. If you want to wear your hair in different shapes or whatever it is, this is what it means, bringing your whole self to work. But let me share with you this case study where somebody they didn't feel comfortable sharing everything or sharing a different side to them, and it impacted their progression. So I'm going to quickly read it just for those that may be partially sighted or impaired. When Leela, not her real name, joined a leading international bank right out of college, she believed that success would come from delivering solid numbers. She said, "Secure the highest return, bring in the most clients, keep your head down and get the work done." For years, Leela did just that, receiving awards for her great work on complex deals. But despite earning the best performance ratings in her group, she kept getting passed over for promotion. One day, she worked up the nerve to ask her boss, why? And they said, "You are really good at your job, Leela. But the problem is that the partners feel like they don't really know you." Her manager told her. Leela acknowledged this. And she said, but she was afraid to open up. Once again, it's about consequences. So she worked to overcome those fears. So she did some work for it as well. She began to seek out lunches and other social opportunities with partners, finding common areas of interest, such as children's sports, reading, and visiting new restaurants. She began talking more openly about her life outside of the office, the types of food she ate, the music she listened to. Once I did that, she said, things started to turn around. Today, Leela is a managing partner. Now, this case study is taken from real life. It's just been slightly adapted to protect their privacy. But it is very telling that some organizations, and it may not be in WBD, but some organizations, if they don't feel like they know you, and although you do good work, it could hinder levels of promotion and progression. So we need to open ourselves up, but we know that it could be taking a risk. What matters here is we need to build a level of trust. We need to build a level of trust. Opening yourself to others requires risk-taking and trust, but without it, employees are less likely to build deeper relationships that lead to real success, happiness, and authenticity at work. So there's work that the allies need to do. And there's a little bit of work that some of the underrepresented groups might need to do. But you can only do that if you trust, if there's psychological safety there. So let me share with you some solutions. Solution 1, accept that not everyone, this is for the allies, accept that not everyone will feel comfortable bringing their whole selves to work, and be supportive if they only bring part of themselves. It's fine. It's good. Create a space for them to be themselves. So what's your cues, your safety cues, and engage in behaviors that ethnic minorities want to share, they want to be a part of. So instead of asking, did you watch Modern Family last night? Which tends to put someone with a different taste in television at an immediate disadvantage. Why don't you say this instead? I don't know what to watch. I can't find anything. What are some of the TV shows that you like to watch? What do you like to enjoy watching? That's a different conversation. And it opens up more insight, more diversity, more inclusion in terms of the people you're speaking to. So this is just a practical example, a very light-hearted example that you can use just to bring people in, to find out more about what they do, to increase the level of trust. When the level of trust increases, then disclosure increases. Your level of disclosure is a reflection of the culture of the organization. I'll say that again. The level of disclosure within WBD is a reflection of the culture. So look at what needs to be changed to get more people disclosing, more people having the voice, more people sharing. Does that make sense, guys? Let me know. Let me know if that makes sense to you, and we'll do our last C. Let me know in the chat. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Really good point, Michelle. Even with TV chats, yeah. I'm loving that. Read the chat, guys. Refer to the chat and you can see the rich dynamics, the rich contribution that's happening. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Okay. Lastly, and then I want to open the Q&As. Contribution. And when I'm talking about contribution, I'm thinking of company impact. When people share their voice, when they have a seat at the table, what does that mean? It impacts everybody. When minorities hesitate to share information about themselves at work, it doesn't just impact them and probably their progression, but it becomes a problem for everybody. The whole company is impacted. The whole department is impacted because you have people who are not contributing 100%. That will have an impact on delivery, on execution. It will have an impact on, you're a global company. You want people to feel accepted, feel needed, feel wanted. So this is, I'm going to share with you this slide. It's a great piece of work by Catalyst. Do check them out. I've put it in the resources for you, the link directly. They've done a piece of research that identified ways to empower underrepresented and marginalized groups that will impact the entire workforce. So through their work research, they were saying, employees are saying, talk to me, trust me, stand by me, and equip me. If you take nothing from today, this is a really great diagram. And it just goes through what they are saying, what employees are saying, encourage me, and other direct reports. Trust me to do my work without looking over my shoulder and make me feel like I'm not good enough, without micromanaging me. Stand by me. That's what your employees are saying. Stand by me. When issues occur, back me up. Support me. Give me airtime. Allow me to share. If a mistake happens, let it be a blip in the road rather than a long-term mistake that has an impact on my future at WBD. And equip me, enable me to do my job to the best of my ability, provide me with the tools, the support, the systems that's going to allow me to do my job better. That's what the employees are saying, according to this piece of research. That's what it's saying. So research by Gallup demonstrated that, particularly for this particular report, Black employees within companies need to see a representation. They need to see people that look like them in positions. And they agreed on 4 positive work experiences, having confidence that their employer will ensure that they are treated right. When people are represented in higher levels of the company, your ethnic and minority staff, your underrepresented staff, they will have more confidence that they're going to be treated right. 62%, that's pretty high. They are confident that the company shares or the company are confident in their ethics and their integrity. You have a diversity and inclusion report. We have WBD reach. They're going to have more confidence in that. They will have more confidence that they're going to be treated with respect. And they'll feel comfortable in knowing that they can be themselves at work. So that's an important piece of research by Gallup. Please do check it out. So let me share with you, when your people are empowered, what happens? They reach their potential. They reach the higher levels. The productivity is higher. So the output is higher because they feel empowered. They know that they are supported, that they are now equipped. They produce a culture of innovation. Diverse thoughts allow that to happen. They support commercial growth. Trust amongst the workers increase. The speed of trust in organizations makes a profound difference to productivity. And the reputation of the company is positively impacted. It's not what people say within WBD, is what they say when they come out of WBD. Do they say that actually they're doing great work? I was there. I'm a product of that. I have been impacted by it. That's what employer brand is. That's what personal branding is what people say when you're not in the room. What do people say when they talking about WBD outside of the office? The reputation. That's what happens when they are empowered. But there are also some tips for the allies in the room. Be aware of implicit biases. So that could be affinity bias. It could be the halo effect that people are doing good today. Yes, let's promote them, and not bearing in mind the work that's been done before by others. Do your own research. Listen to podcasts. There are so many great podcasts out there that will heighten your knowledge so you understand the experiences, the lived experiences of your underrepresented staff. Read books on the subject of race and of allyship, of microaggression, of gaslighting. They come in different guises, and you need to be aware of that. And I'll share some resources with you at the end that I hopefully will help. Amplify the voices of those that don't have your privilege. You're going to be in rooms that your ethnic minority staff, your underrepresented groups will never be able to enter because of one thing or another. Amplify their voices. You know the work they do. Bring their names in the room. Use your privilege for good. Allow them in through your voice. Do the inner work. And I share this because I know that it's a journey for allies, and you're not always going to get it right, but that's fine. We're giving you the space to be clumsy, to get it wrong sometimes, but do the inner work. This comes from the inside out. Me delivering this talk for 45 minutes is not enough to change the mindset. There's work that you need to be doing, and accept the criticism with grace. I know it feels uncomfortable. I've delivered workshops and trainings for different companies, and it's been such a burden on me to say what I have to say. But I've said that to them, take it with grace. I'm sharing this because I want you to be better. I want it to come from inside. Understand and appreciate that they're all different. Everyone is different with different experiences. So it can't be a one cap fits all. It cannot be a one cap fits all. But most of all, guys, this is what I want you to do. I want you to join the WBD Reach. They're doing the network is doing such a great work with external people coming in like me, delivering sessions like this for you. But they want you to come in, share your voice, share your suggestions, speak to Clarissa, speak to Antonia, Chris, Suprini. Let them know where you think they should be going. This is your time. This is your space. And I want to share with you this final quote, and then I want to open up for Q&As. History has shown us that courage can be contagious. When you are courageous, you give permission for somebody else to be courageous. You give permission for other people to have a voice. So history has shown us that courage can be contagious and hope can take on a whole life of its own. So although we are talking about this in Black History Month in the UK, I will challenge you that it's Black History every month. For every underrepresented group listening to my voice today, you are making history every day. This is the mantle that you carry. And sometimes they say heavy is the crown, but we are history. Your voice needs to be heard. WBD need to hear you in whichever avenue is easier for you. So guys, I want to leave you with these resources. Please take a picture of it. You'll get access to the slides and you have access to the recording. And now I want to open up for questions. I'll stop sharing my screen. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Reach out to me if there's something in my presentation that resonated, if there's something in that presentation that triggered something for you, and you don't feel like you can speak to somebody at the WBD, speak to me, and I can filter that back to WBD. There are different ways that you can connect. There's different ways to get your voice heard. But this is your time. This is your time. So thank you very much for listening. It's been a pleasure. And I want to go back to the team. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. It's been a great webinar and we've had a lot of engagement. So thank you for everyone getting involved. I can see Barry's got a hand up if you'd like to go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah. Hi, Michelle. I just want to say that was a really, really beautiful session. So thank you so much for that. I think something you said in the start sort of stuck with me, where you talked about what's stopping you from, sort of sharing your experiences at work and what can WBD do about it. And I think an idea can be to sort of give employees a platform where they can share their personal stories, where they can come together and talk about who they are, where they come from, what they're trying to say and what their message is. And obviously it doesn't have to be perfect. As Chloe said, it can be, messy. It can just be personal, a space for people to sort of come together and trust each other and talk about it. And that also sort of reinforces your point of understanding and learning from each other. The question I have in regards to that is that sometimes what I say can be triggering for someone else. So you sort of need that safe space, but also it can be hard to show up as you are when you're struggling with imposter syndrome, maybe. So what is your obviously idea of how do you deal with that?
So there's two parts to your question. So, and you make such a good point that sometimes what you say might be triggering for somebody else. And I think what you need to do is always pre-frame our conversation, because you just don't know how people may react to it. So you might say, I want to share something, and it could be triggering. And we always want to give somebody an outlet to come back to me, let's speak about it, or give them an avenue to speak. And share from your heart. And I think what is great here is if you share from your experience, that can never be held against you. Never be held against you. And that's why, even if you say it clumsily, even if it's not coherent, it's coming from your heart. It's your lived experience. No one can argue with your lived experience. No one can gaslight you, because it's your experience. So if you come from that position and that perspective, and you pre-frame the conversation, people will be more open to hearing it, because they're thinking it. That's Faria. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Yeah, I pronounce my name as Faria.
Faria. And so they'll say, this is Faria's perspective, and they'll see themselves in your story as well. So I love the fact that you said that we should have a platform where you can share your personal stories and not be judged by it. And I think you should test it. I really think that the team should test it and really share the wins from it, and people who've been able to really share their story, and see if that level of trust increases amongst the workforce as well. So thank you, Faria, for sharing that with us.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions they want to raise? You can raise your hand or type them in the chats.
We have got someone said, could this be part of a Be Yourself campaign? It could be something that you will consider. Oh yeah, it sounds really good.
Thanks, Sarah. That's something that I raised as well, perhaps a relaunch or a second phase, which I think Tracy is well aware of as well and is discussing within her team.
Love that. Really great comments. Keep sharing in the comments. Feel free to come off mute. Thank you, Jacqueline. That's brilliant. Is there any questions, or is there anything that anyone who was listening to this that you would like to see different at WBD? Is there any suggestions? I think we've got some coming.
Thank you. Go ahead, Simon.
Yeah, mine was an observation, I suppose, as much as what I might want to see different. As you can see, I'm an old white, and I happen to be a straight male, and I'm disappointed that there aren't more of us on this. I'm a minority in this group, and I'm quite sad about that. Actually, it's almost as if it's not being taken seriously in a wider context. I'm keen to be an ally for minorities and people of other cultures, because as Michelle says, you only get the best out of people when they feel themselves. So it is important, and I just wanted to say that from my perspective, I suppose, as much as anything. Come on, old white males, you can join in too.
A really good share. Thank you for that.
Hi, Michelle. I just sort of wanted to raise a point, I suppose, more than a question. So I'm the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Board sponsor, and I spend a lot of time talking to people across our networks, and I spend a lot of time talking to people that don't, perhaps sit in any particular network either. And I've been talking a lot about allyship, and I think in the business there is, a real movement towards people wanting to be allies. I think part of the issue is people don't understand how to be an ally. What does that mean? how do you support people across our networks, not just this network, but all of them? So I'd be really interested in your thoughts, I suppose, on, you know, how do you help someone be an ally? What do you say to someone if they say, I'd like to be an ally, but I don't know how to do that? Because I think it's different. Everybody has their own personal experience about actions, not words, or, you know, there's lots of phrases you hear. But if you could give some sort of advice, that would be great.
And yeah, brilliant question, Jessica. And I think if we come from the very simplest and basic perspective of listening, because I think we listen and we want to give an answer, but really listen to understand and hear the different voices in the room. So it's about actually speaking to people individually, because they may share, and I understand that's more time consuming, yeah, and it's more burdensome to actually listen to people individual, but I think you'll get more from listening to people individually. So that's the first thing. And really listen to, what would you like to see? Or how can I better serve you? How can I better serve you? What does that look like? And we have to understand that we're not all on the same level. So there might be, I want to understand what motivates you, what drives you. So when I'm in the room and I'm speaking about this, how can I bring your name in the room? What does that look like? So understanding that everybody is different and everybody has different needs. So it's more taxing on an ally, I'm going to be very honest, but there's work to be done. And it's not going to be easy. But having those individual conversations, really bringing their name in the room. So it's not just mentioning their name, but actually saying, there is somebody in my team. There's someone in my team, there's Lydia in my team, and she's working on this particular project with this particular client. I think it's worth bringing her in. I think it might be worth allowing her and then hearing her voice. That's actually bringing someone in the room, rather than just mentioning their name and not following through on it. So I think that's been a really great ally. And like I mentioned, just read some of these books and actually say, I loved it when I was in an organization and I had somebody who was an ally and a sponsor, and she said, I didn't realize that your hair means so much to you, because they kept saying, oh, you keep changing your hair. And she's obviously done her homework and read about it. And it was so refreshing that I could talk to her about my hair, and she really understood. And because there was this talk about, you know, don't touch my hair, that was a big thing. But she understood that for me as a Black woman, hair is my crown and glory. It means such a lot to us. And she could understand that, and it meant so much. So I think start by listening, those individual rich conversations, and really bringing people into the room.
Maybe that's something we can do some work on, Michelle, in the business, and sort of helping people understand what allyship means. And I think, you know, that may help across all of our networks.
Yeah.
So thanks for that. It's really helpful.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thanks both. I don't think we've got any more questions, so just wanted to thank Michelle again. A really useful time, and we've had a lot of good feedback and a lot of things to take away and for us to work on. But yes, thank you all for attending as well. And like Michelle said, we will have the recording available on the hub soon, so you can watch back if needed.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor, everyone. And yeah, lots of takeaways and shares today. So thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Michelle. Good chairing, Clarissa. Thank you.
Thank you.